Tuning in to Anthony Scott Hobbs' Citizen Georgia, live and on fire down here in downtown Kennesaw, the Big Shanty Festival. If you're just tuning in, we've been interviewing candidates all day long and looking forward to interview the next candidate that's here for us today, Karen Handel, who's running for the U.S. Senate. I want to welcome you to the show, Karen. Good to see you.
Delighted to be here. Always good to be with you, Anthony.
I think what's exciting, let's just make sure that stays up, excellent, is in seeing this past week with you, you had a good week, didn't you?
I've had a good couple of weeks, no doubt about it.
You know, if for those of you that don't know, Sarah Palin was in town. I think Karen's up on the air with some television commercials from Karen.
We are. We had Sarah Palin's endorsement. Sarah Palin came into town, and we have a TV ad up, and then we're also up on radio, and we'll be staying up on TV from now through May. It'll be great.
Karen, what would you say to the listeners? Obviously, there's a number of different candidates in this race right now, but what would you say to the listeners of why vote for you? Why should they gravitate to you and put you into this office?
What we need in the United States Senate is an individual with a track record of being effective in getting the job done. Not just in the private sector, but also in elected office, because I believe that results matter. Every one of us in our jobs, we have to get the job done every day, right? Absolutely. So why shouldn't we expect our elected officials to do the same? As chairman of the Fulton County Commission, I did it. As Secretary of State, I was able to get the job done, and we need to bring that to the U.S. Senate.
What would be one distinct trait, leadership style, idea that you bring to the table in contrast to the other candidates that are running?
I bring the tenacity and fire in the belly to really be effective at getting the job done. You know, we have people that have been up there for 10 to 20 years. They've had all of that time to do everything they're talking about, and they haven't.
And realizing, obviously, when you talk about economic development, and I think a lot of people saw, for those of you walking by, a lot of you may or may not know what happened down with the Savannah dredging project, but what would you say to those congressmen, for example, that are looking to run for this office or are running for this office as well? What would you say just in the context of what happened there? What happened to that dredging project and why that economic development program didn't go forward?
A little background for your listeners. Number one, this is the most critical commerce project for not just Georgia, but for the East Coast and our country. And what happened, it was a fundamental lack of leadership. We have been trying to get the dollars to move forward for the ports for 17 years. I would ask everyone, do you get 17 years to deliver on your projects in your world? Absolutely not. So we need to have people have a sense of urgency and have priorities for Georgia up in the United States Senate.
Obviously, this is another issue that's such a hot button issue out there. People talking about it affecting their personal, private lives. When it comes to your health care, when it comes to the Affordable Health Care Act, some would call that Obamacare. How do you think, in coming into this office, how can you affect Obamacare, repeal, rewrite, whatever? What do you think the best route to go is when it comes to that legislation?
Well, a couple of things. Number one, let's call it what it really is. It's the Obama healthcare tax, and it's $800 billion in new taxes that will cripple this economy, and it's already hurting families. What can we do? The key is to make sure that we have a majority in the House and the Senate, that we have a bill that is a repeal and replace. I really like Congressman Tom Price's bill, H.R. 2300.
You know, interesting that she brings that up just in the context. You know, you hear all the time from the other side, though the Republicans they don't have a plan, they don't bring anything up, and of course, Congressman Price does have a plan that he's had out there for some time. Let me just take a step back and versus firing questions at you. What issue is most important to you in running?
I think there are, frankly, a couple of things that have to be important, and here's why. We are in a place where we don't have the luxury of picking just one issue. We need to fix the fiscal house in Washington for our country, deal with the spending. The solutions are out there. The only thing missing has been individuals with the will and resolve to actually cut the budget. At the same time, we need growth initiatives that are going to jumpstart this economy. Too many people are still unemployed or underemployed. We need to not just have tax reform, we need to rewrite the tax code. I'm a big fan of the fair tax. Let's get moving with that. And then on the regulatory front, let's have an across-the-board audit and start to roll back the owners' regulations that are crippling crippling small businesses in particular.
I got to share this story. Great answer. I got to share this story. You know, at our office, we've got a lot of folks that, they were talking about some of the comments that David Perdue had made this past week. And a lot of those folks that we have in the office had gone a couple years to college, but they hadn't graduated yet. You know, it was interesting talking to them because truly I felt that they were personally offended by David Perdue's comments in that they hadn't finished college and that they almost felt that Perdue was being almost an elitist. What are some of your thoughts there?
Well, I don't think that a piece of paper hanging on the wall, for as much respect as I have for everyone who's had the opportunity to go to college, that piece of paper is not necessarily the barometer of an intellect, nor is it the measure of a person's ability to succeed. It was demeaning. With that said, you know, we need to have a United States Senator who understands all of Georgia and will work on behalf of all Georgians. And clearly, this is an indicator of just how out of touch he is with the vast majority of our state.
I was reading online that he called and gave you an apology.
He did, and I accepted that. I accepted the apology.
But obviously it's difficult for a David Perdue to apologize to those millions of Georgians that don't have a college degree as well. Wouldn't you agree?
I think so, and the apology wasn't necessarily for me. It should be for Georgians. And again, I just think we need to have a United States Senator who is going to represent all of Georgians, an individual who the average Georgian can relate to, so that we can make sure that we are solving problems not just for the few, but for the all.
What do you think that you would do in the first, how are we doing on time? What do you think that you would do in the first 100 days of being in office? What would you be your first objectives that you would do once voters decided to hire you?
The first objective would be to secure the committee assignments that I'm going to be seeking. Number one, armed services, because I understand how important our military men and women are in the military footprint in the state. Agriculture, because that's our number one economy. And number three, whatever I can do to be engaged in cutting the spending of the budget, that's my wheelhouse.
We're going to go ahead and take a quick break here. If you're just tuning in, we're interviewing Karen Handel, a candidate for United States Senate here, and looking obviously at such a sunny day here at the Big Shanty Festival here in downtown Kennesaw.